This video is dedicated to Antonio Rouse. Antonio, thank you. Elenda the Dusk Rose versus Grunn the Lonely King, Sisay Weatherlight Captain, and Morophon the Boundless. A 1-lander, and it doesn't even generate coloured mana. Let's take our free mulligan for the turn. Okay, that's better. If we're desperate, we can go for Demonic Tutor into a land. Yeah, we draw at the beginning of the turn. Yeah, I think we'll keep that one. Okay, that's really good. We get ourselves into an Urborg. We've got a couple of 5-colour players, so I don't think I want to play the Urborg yet. We might help them out on mana when we don't want to. We'll go for the Verdant Catacombs into a tap land. Turn 1 Sol Ring from Morophon being piloted by Drone of War, patron to the channel. And then going over to another patron of the channel, the 7 Deadly Sins, running Sisay, Weatherlight Captain, getting down another tap land. And then Grunn is being piloted by an internet random. And Grunn goes in for Hedron Crawler, so yeah, there's plenty of ramp coming down in the first few turns. Okay, True Conviction for us. I think we will go in for a basic Plains, and then maybe we can go Demonic Tutor into, I don't know, maybe some fast mana. Yeah, I'm not too sure what we want yet, to be honest. In fact, we could go, yeah, we'll go for Phyrexian Arena. I don't like drawing Phyrexian Arena in the mid to late game. So if we can get that down on turn 3, that would be really good. Could have always gone for Cabal Coffers as well because we've got the Urborg, but I don't think we want to prioritise Cabal Coffers just yet when we have so few lands in play. A Fleecemane Line coming down for Morophon now, so this is most likely a Morophon Cat tribal deck. A Forbidden Orchard comes down for 7 Sins, and that takes them into Cultivate. They gave the Spirit to this player over here. Then Chromatic Lantern coming down from Grunn. And they tap down even more mana. Grunn is probably just rammed full of ramp spells. Oh no, they went for Titanic Growth, +4/+4 onto the Spirit, and then swinging in at us. Okay, that's good. We get into another land. I will probably use that to get the Mistveil Plains. Let's get down this Urborg, and if it helps someone with black mana, then so be it. Get down the Phyrexian Arena, and hopefully that'll draw us plenty of cards this game. 7 Sins telling us that his is Shrine Tribal. I'm actually looking at making Shrine Tribal with Sisay myself, so I'll be very intrigued to see how this goes. We've had some new shrines released in, I don't know if it was Jumpstart or M21, but it's a much more viable option now with the more shrines that we have available to us. And a Regal Caracal making good use of that Sol Ring from the Morophon player. +1/+1 onto their Fleecemane Lion, as well as all their other cats. And that Fleecemane Lion goes in at 7 Sins. Another Spirit goes over to the mono green player from 7 Sins, and then down to an Oracle of Muldiah with an Idyllic Tutor on top, so no extra land drops I don't think this turn. The ramp continues from the green player, Gilded Lotus this time, down to 3 cards in hand, and then using that mana to go for a Rogue's Gloves. Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. And they equip that to their Mana Rock. I would think they'd equip that to the Spirit, surely. Then you can swing in and draw a card. Anyway, deciding to put it on their now tapped Mana Dork. Speaking of drawing cards, we will draw one with the Phyrexian Arena. And we get ourselves into a Swords and a Kakusho. So we've got both Path and Swords available to us now. Let's play the Flooded Strand. And we're really eager for some ramp at the moment because we're falling behind. Let's just try and make our commander stick. We don't even have token generators at the moment. This time from the Cats player it is a Mutate card. The one that creates 2 cat tokens when it comes in. And that cat already has lifelink, so what else does it have? It will have Monstrosity, which could give it indestructible. Looks like the Mutate card is going on top, so that's a 4/6 with lifelink. And that Monstrosity ability. Okay, so it's 1 each. We take a token, 7 Sins takes a token, and then the 4/6 Cub Warden goes in and gets blocked by a Spirit token. And thanks to the Spirit token dying, we get a plus counter on our Elenda. Alright, now it's a Wrath of God with an incorrect border. So we know that that's coming. That's good to know, actually. Like I said, we don't have any token generators anyway, apart from our commander. And now in for a Demonic Tutor. And then after the shuffle there, with the Demonic Tutor, they do have a land on top. I don't think they've played 2 lands this turn already. Going for, with 5 colours, the Very Shrine. That you should build your shrine deck around. If an ability of another shrine you control triggers, while you control 6 or more shrines, it triggers an additional time. And it allows you to search for shrines as well, so that's obviously what they tutored for with the Demonic Tutor. Let's see if the green player has removal for that. No, they are going for, wouldn't you guess, even more ramp. Grow from the Ashes. And then that takes them into their commander, which hasn't been kicked. Then a Spirit token is going to swing into a 2/2 cat, so that will gain them some life. It will also kill off a Spirit token to add another plus counter onto Elenda. So, might actually be worth adding Forbidden Orchard into this deck, if people are going to swing in with things like that. Oh wow, still no lands for us. I think that means that we hold up Swords and Path, and we go for this Dismantling Wave. So we'll get rid of a Soul Ring. Unfortunately, the Shrine, that didn't last long. And then we'll get rid of the Rogue's Gloves as well, so that they're not drawing any cards. And then we'll have to discard the Overseer of the Damned at the end of the turn. Just continue to hold Elenda back. I'm glad I went for Phyrexian Arena now, because we've cleared a lot of cards off the top and not gotten into any more lands. Alright, this time we are getting the big cat. That is a 4/6, and then a couple more tokens, again being sent in at 7 Deadly Sins. They don't seem to be very worried about the mono green player. So do we just take the 4? And yeah, I think we're just going to take the 4 here, and we'll hold on to our pieces of removal. Might even have to go for Path to Exile onto our own commander if we can't get into lands. Over to 7 Sins' turn. They have Chromatic Lantern on top. We know they've got at least 1 land in hand because we saw it with the Oracle of Moldiah. And there it is. They decide to shock that in. And then go in for Honden of Cleansing Fire. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 2 for each shrine you control. And then it's an Idyllic Tutor. So, yeah, it looks as though our opponent's relying on a lot of tutors to get themselves into the shrines that they need. I was thinking more of relying on Enchantress type effects, just because I like Enchantress. But obviously tutors is a much more reliable way to get into the shrines that you need. They now have a Sterling Grove on top. So I think it might be worth actually getting into the Mistveil Plains so that we can shuffle Dismantling Wave back, because it might come in handy in the late game. Alright, that's good. I was worried that Grunn was going to come in at us as well, but Grunn instead going towards the player with the highest life total, which makes sense. Missing Trample at the moment, unfortunately, so they'll probably just chump block with a cat. And that's exactly what they do. Which kills off the cat token. We get yet another plus counter on Elenda. And there you go. A random decides to just scoop it up, because why wouldn't you? So it's down to just the 3 of us. Yeah, apologies there. Obviously there's nothing we can do about that. I will crack that for that Mistveil Plains so that we don't have to draw into a tap land later on. Very much dislike drawing into tap lands when we're desperate for just 1 extra mana. Plus the fact that, like I said, we can shuffle things back in if we want to. We'll need another white permanent first though. And we're not getting into the mana that we need. Plenty of mana acceleration here. Okay. Another creature that I might actually play this turn. Alright, Field of the Dead finally. It's a tap land, but I'll take it. Yeah, I'm actually going to go for Luminous Broodmoth here so that we can block with the Elenda if we want to. So yeah, let's go for this. Been looking forward to playing with Luminous Broodmoth ever since it was spoiled in Ikoria. And seeing as how it's a new card, we'll read it. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. Okay, at the end of our turn, the cat player is going in for something. I wonder if it's White Sun Zenith. Oh no, they're activating the monstrosity on their big cat. So that is now a 5/7 with Indestructible, as well as Hexproof. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Hexproof. All the keywords are difficult to read on these Mutate cards. It has a plus counter, it's Hexproof and Indestructible. So we need to rely on Grave Pact if we can start getting into more mana. Coming in at us with the big cat again. This time I am going to block with Elenda. A couple of cat tokens going in at 7 sins. Let's... Oh, you actually can't choose to put your commander in the graveyard anymore. So it must ask us... Yeah, I think it does actually. I think it asks us if we want to put it into the command zone or not. So I'm actually going to try and block like that. When it asks us if we want to put her into the command zone, I'm going to... I should put her into the command zone and see if it works, but I'm just going to put her into the graveyard. So we'll say no to returning her to the command zone. Then Luminous Broodmoth will trigger as well, and it should pull her out with a flying counter. Ah yeah, excellent. So that works the way that you would think it would work. And then we get a bunch of vampire tokens as well. Excellent. So that sets us up nicely for when the Grave Pact comes out. We'll be able to go Grave Pact next turn and still hold up Swords and Path. Honden of Cleansing Fire triggers. They'll gain a couple of life there. I think it might be time for us to point removal at this because they've gained a lot of life over here thanks to all their cats having lifelink. Still holding up mana, that's noteworthy. And they also have the Flash Enabler. They don't have... Oh yes, they do. They have blue mana here, so they could tap 3 lands and play a 3 mana cat at flash speed if they want to. Oh, and there's a Damnation, of course. We'll end up with... Yeah, we'll end up with a vampire token here at least. This is indestructible, so... Yeah, that doesn't get rid of that, unfortunately. Anyway, Damnation gets rid of our board state. We will definitely return her to the command zone. Finally, Magic Online has started asking you where you want to put your commander. It did always used to do that, but then they changed it for some reason, making one of those changes that no one asked for. Got to play with Luminous Broodmoth a little bit at least, but the Damnation does get rid of our Elenda, as well as our Broodmoth, as well as all the cats from over this way. Then a Bow of Nylea. And it's noteworthy that they seem to be avoiding tapping down their Forbidden Orchard, now that it's difficult to know who to give the tokens to. Then tapping down the Bow of Nylea, and with that they are grabbing their Sanctum, the Demonic Tutor, the Damnation and the Idyllic Tutor, putting those back into the library, giving the Spirit token to the cat player over here. So everyone seems very worried about us, seemingly. Okay, get into a land with Ancient Tomb, that's ramp at least. And a Spawning Pit is a sack outlet, that's really good. So, do we just go Kakusho here? Yeah, I think we go Kakusho because this thing can't kill it. Not currently anyway, so yeah, let's go for that. And as ever, we'll continue to hold up Swords and Path to Exile. Okay, they are going for the Alchemist's Refuge like I thought they might, so let's see what flash speed thing they want to cast here. It is Rhythm of the Wild, so they can have their things come in with haste if they like, only, well, they'll have 3 cards in hand at the beginning of the turn. This time the Cub Warden sits back, so yeah, it seems clear to me that the cat player wants to team up with 7 Sins and try and take us down before they go down to a 1v1. Now it's noteworthy that 7 Sins can go for Sisay and then straight into an activation if they want to. I think we will go for Swords onto their commander okay, going for 3 visits first. If they go in for their commander, I think we will go for a Swords on there. Although, we might go for Grave Pact and Spawning Pit next turn. So it depends on what they do here, really. Sterling Grove still continuing to set themselves up, giving a spirit to the cat player again. So that's going to make it more difficult for us to get rid of this thing with a Grave Pact. Might have to hold off on that and get down our Elenda first. The privileged position gives all of their enchantments shroud and hexproof, near enough. The position will give this thing hexproof, and the Sterling Grove will give that shroud. So it means none of their stuff can be targeted, basically. Yeah, that's rough. I think we need to try and get into... Yeah, we really need to try and get into Austere Command or shuffle this back in. Finally, starting to get into the lands, so as long as we can make a land every turn, we should be okay. We get into another sack outlet. And now we're starting to trigger Field of the Dead as well, because we've got 7 lands with different names. So every land we make from now on will get us into a zombie. I say this turn we go for our commander and get down the spawning pit as well. Then I think we'll swing in at 7 Sins with the vampire just to gain a little bit of life. Probably should have done it last turn as well. Then we'll go for the spawning pit. And that can be the end of our turn. We can hopefully put some plus counters onto Elenda. See what the cat player's got for us at the end of the turn. They decided not to do anything, and now they are going through to combat. And again, just deciding to hold back. So not having the best of luck with their top decks, apparently. Okay, Sterling Grove being sacrificed there for another tutor from the 7 Sins, which opens them up for getting this destroyed at least. And yeah, because they shuffled this back in, they get to tutor for it again, which they just have done. But first, going for Honden of the Seeing Winds. Draw a card for each shrine you control at the upkeep, probably one of the better ones, especially when you've only got 2 cards in hand. 5 colour Sanctum is... I think the 5 colour Sanctum's on top now, isn't it? Yeah, you put it on top. So we go back round to our turn and drawing even more cards. This Phyrexian Arena has been a godsend this game, especially now that it keeps getting us into lands. Yeah, that's really good. Let's go for the Tainted Field. Get into another zombie, and then we can go for... that's 4 into the Grave Pact. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Not quite enough for the True Conviction. I think we just hold up Generous Gift and more removal in Swords and Path. So let's go for exactly that. We'll hold up as many utility lands as we can in Mistveiled Plains and Silent Clearing. Alright, are we seeing some counter magic here? That is a Swan Song. So, yeah, Grave Pact going down. Yet another thing that we might have to shuffle in with Mistveiled Plains. At least it wasn't our True Conviction, though. That might actually help us to get rid of 7 Sins next turn. Yeah, let's just turn everything sideways in at them here. We only need to get them down to 5 life, really, because we can sacrifice Kakusho to drain them for 5. And this time, Drone is going for something at the end of the turn. It is Spectral Links. Can't be countered, you can regenerate it, and it has protection from green, not entirely relevant to us. They do bring it in with a plus counter though, thanks to Rhythm of the Wild. Then deciding to swing in the Cub Warden at us. I think we will just block with a zombie here. In fact, why don't we force them to put black mana into this to regenerate it. That is gain 3 life from the Bow of Nylea. So yeah, let's go for blocking like this. I'm not going to bother sacrificing it for the spawning pit. I just want to make them put black mana into this if they want to regenerate it, because it's just 1 less mana that they can use to flash something in. And there we go, they do put the regeneration shield on it. We go down to 19 and get a plus counter on our Elenda. And the shrines are starting to go off now. Honden of the Cleansing Fire is going to gain them 4 life, and they're going to draw 2 cards from the Seeing Winds. Sanctum of All coming down. That is the card that they tutored for previously. Yet another spirit token over to the cat player. And then it's Winds of Abandon. Exile each creature you don't control. So I wonder if we can actually make use of this. I'm definitely going to sacrifice Kakusho, but I think it's actually worth using this for ramp. So let's sacrifice Kakusho first of all. And we'll sacrifice our Elenda to get a couple of tokens out, or 3 tokens out, now that Kakusho's gone down. So Kakusho's gone down, drained each of our opponents for 5 to gain 10 life. Let's sacrifice our Elenda, and that is going back into the command zone. We'll get some vampire tokens here, and then I'll probably put the spawning pit token into play as well, just for the ramp. I think we'll get all of our basics into play here. So there we go. How many tokens do we have now? That's 4, 5, 6 and 7. So yeah, I think we've got about 8 basics in the deck, something like that. Yeah, let's see how many we've got left. 2, 4, 6 and 7 left. So that's all of those, I think. And we'll see how many the 5-colour player has. Whenever I run a 5-colour deck, I only ever put one of each basic in for Path to Exile pretty much, but yeah, it comes in handy with Winds of Abandon as well. And of course we end up with a bunch of Field of the Dead triggers as well, totally forgot about that. So I think it's still worth going in for True Conviction, and that will take the 7 Deadly Sins out of the game. So we'll save our Generous Gift that I was going to use on the Privileged Position. We will go for a Mistveiled Plains activation instead. Now, what do we want to use Mistveiled Plains on is the question. Oh, we can't use it, can we? Because we've missed... we should have done that. Yeah, we should have done that before we started sacrificing stuff. Forgot about the fact that we need white creatures or white permanents in play to make use of this. Don't often play with Mistveiled Plains. Luckily, I don't think we're desperate for anything from our graveyard anyway. Okay, well, Vampiric Tutor... yeah, and seeing as how this is exactly why I put a stop on the upkeep for Phyrexian Arena, we drew into the Vamp Tutor with the Phyrexian Arena, so let's go for that now, before the draw step, and then we'll draw into whatever we tutor for here. Yeah, let's just go for Liliana, Dreadhorde General here, seeing as how we've got a bunch of zombies in play. We will draw into that, and then this turn we're going for the True Conviction, definitely. Let's go for Caves of Koilos first. Then we're going to go in for Liliana, and then we'll save some plays for out of our hand later on. I'm amazed how long we've held on to all this removal, to be honest. Okay, so that is 4, 8, 12, 16 in at the 7 Sins. 4, 8, 12 and 16, thanks to the double strike. And then these can go in at Drone. We'll just have to hope that one of the zombies isn't removed. Drone might be able to save the 7 Sins here. No, apparently not. A very resilient Sanctum of All deck from the 7 Deadly Sins, but as ever, the Field of the Dead is proving itself to be an invaluable piece. So let's go for creating yet another zombie with Liliana. We'll go for the Zulaport Cutthroat as well. And then I think it's a case of just turning everything sideways next turn, assuming that Drone doesn't have something for us. Well, they're going for something with the Alchemist's Refuge. And that's an Infect creature, not really too worried about that. Then getting down their Morophon the Boundless as well. They do, thanks to our Urborg, have black mana on here, so I think they can go in for an activation. Yeah, they've got red there if they need it. But not going for Wooburg, instead playing a Rhystic Study. We'll go for Swords to Plowshares now, because I don't think we're desperate to go for Mistveiled Plains. Might as well play the Swords to Plowshares before the Rhystic Study comes down. And then, do we want to get rid of that thing as well? How much damage do we have on them? We've got 7, 8, 9, times 2 is 18. And 20, yeah, it's nowhere near enough at the moment. I think we'll just leave the Infector in play and hold on to Path to Exile. Probably for when Morophon comes down again. To be honest, it seems quite likely that we'll be getting into a Liliana limit break as well. Given another 2 or 3 turns, which it may well take us 2 or 3 turns to get this player out of the game, thanks to all the life gain from the Regal Caracal. Although we're gaining a nice chunk of life ourselves now, thanks to True Conviction. Okay, Yawgmoth, that is some nice card draw. I think, first of all, we want to go for Liliana's Plus. Then we'll get down our commander yet again. Rhystic Study will trigger there. We will definitely pay for that. This late in the game, we really don't want our opponent to be drawing into lots of cards. We'll get down the Yawgmoth as well. Then it's just a case of turning everything sideways. We'll hold back the Zulaport Cutthroat and a zombie token. Oh, I didn't swing in with all the zombies there apparently. It wouldn't let me right click and attack with all there. So apparently I misclicked and didn't swing in with this one. Anyway, we'll deal 16 points of damage to them. They decide not to block. So still some high life totals. They're at 33, we are at 81 now. If we get them down low enough, probably next turn we might be able to go for the Zulaport Cutthroat win. Going in for Morophon the Boundless again. And they don't have enough mana held up for the Wooburg cost on that. Marisi's Twin Claws, that is a 2/4 with double strike. It will probably have a plus counter on it from Rhythm of the Wild. So that is a 4/6 with double strike. I think what we'll do is just turn all the tokens sideways again, and then anything they block with, we can do Yawgmoth shenanigans, maybe get rid of this thing permanently. Now we can actually go for Mistveiled Plains this time, so let's actually shuffle something back in. Let's just put the Grave Pact back. And how good has Phyrexian Arena been this game? It's terrible to draw into it in the late game, but if you get into it early enough and it sticks around, I mean, we've drawn twice as many cards as everyone else at the beginning of the turns at least. Go for a Liliana Plus. And we're actually getting into our Mana Rocks now. Let's go for the Cryptghast. And thanks to Urborg, all of our lands are swamps, so any land that we tap will add a black as well as whatever other colour we tap it for. Go for an Orzhov Signet, and as ever, pay for the Study. Really not worried about Study this late in the game with all this mana that we've got now. And we'll start extorting our opponent as well with the surplus mana that we've got. Go for Chromatic Lantern. And tap down a swamp for 2 mana. One goes into Study, and one goes into Cryptghast. And now our opponent's in a really tricky spot because we've got all these tokens. If they go for a board wipe, we can sacrifice them all, put a bunch of plus counters onto Elenda, and then they'll still have a bunch of vampires to deal with. Now let's try and actually swing in with all the zombies this time. There we are, so 10 2/2 zombies with double strike and lifelink. And 7 is going to get through. So 7 gets through for 14 points of damage in response to... one... Oh, I actually forgot we have the Proliferate for Liliana as well, don't we, thanks to Yawgmoth. Could have gone for the Limit Break by now. Yeah, forgive me, forgot about that. We'll put a minus counter onto the Infect, and we'll get rid of that zombie because it's going to die to the cat anyway. That will draw us a card from Liliana and Yawgmoth. It will drain our opponent with the Zulaport Cutthroat. And assuming we want to jump through all the hoops here, alright, going for a Regeneration Shield on there now. Yeah, whatever, we'll just let them keep the Infect creature. Forgot about the Yavimaya Hollow. Yeah, what was I saying? If we decide we want to jump through all the hoops now, we could just sacrifice all of our creatures, excluding the Zulaport Cutthroat. Deal a bunch of damage to them, then sacrifice the Elenda and all the zombies, or vampires even, and drain them with the Zulaport Cutthroat again. Anyway, we might as well draw another card with the zombie that is being blocked by the Morophon. And this time we'll take the plus counter off of the double striking cats. So again, draw a card with Yawgmoth and our Liliana. Drain our opponent with Zulaport and another plus counter on Elenda. Alright, get into Anguished Unmaking for even more removal. We've got another Planeswalker. So yeah, we are really looking good here. Then we have a zombie die in combat, thanks to it being blocked by the Infector. So I think pretty much the writing's on the wall now. We're outdrawing our opponent, we've got a better board state than they do. Oh, and there we go, we take them down to exactly 0, so... Yeah, those drains from the Cryptghast and its Extort as well as the Zulaport Cutthroat were absolutely relevant there. I didn't realise we were taking them down during this combat. So yeah, a very resilient little deck we've got here, I think. Elenda the Dusk Rose. I think she was a good commander anyway, but she did have one of her abilities near enough switched off. You had to play around with things like Persist and Reanimation and stuff. Don't have to do any of that anymore. We can just kill her off like she was any creature in the 99, and we've seen that a few times this game, so yeah, very much enjoying her now, and it's a really good rules change for M21, I think. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments section. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.